and thanks for tuning into Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, it's time for my September reading wrap-up. I did only read 14 books this month, but it's okay. It's not like not like I already have 23 books planned for October. Just wait until you see my TBR video for sure. I've got my handy dandy tablet here with all my notes. My printer is not printing today, so whatever. Let's just dive in, shall we? First up, I read Rebel Witch. I did audiobook this one, and honestly, it was so good. I love this book. I think I like this book more than I liked book one. There were some predictable aspects about it. But what I think was really good was Rune and Gideon, their whole relationship. They go from enemies to reluctant allies to kind of friends, and then they go back to their whole romance thing again, which was in book one. I really, really loved their tension. But above all that, I mean, Cressida, is that her name? The evil bitch witch queen? Yeah, Cressida. I hate her. She's awful. I will say the author did such a great job on creating such a evil character. Like, you hate her. She's awful. But it's done so well. She's a character you love to hate, and you are supposed to hate her. She's psychotic. But what's also really interesting is, like, the debate in the book. So, everyone hated the witch queens because they were awful human beings, you know? But not all witches were bad. However, turning a blind eye to the atrocities and the abuse of power vilified them. Because when you do that, you do become culpable. You may not be the person hurting the other person. However, when you do nothing and you stand by, and I think this resonates really well with reality, when you do nothing, you are as bad as the abusers, you know? But once they overthrow them, now we have a new abuse of power. All the people who were abused by witches, they are just creating this cycle of hatred and animosity. Anyone who's a witch, regardless of age, even if they're young children, they're sentenced to death. And it's just like, okay, so you are creating your own enemy at this point. You are allowing yourself to be driven by fear and anger and revenge. And now you're hunting witches. People who are innocent. People who were probably too young to understand what was happening, or, you know, in the previous regime. You are now making them your enemy. So there is this cycle of violence that I think the author really does a great job of addressing. Because that's what it comes to in this end. Like, how can we end this cycle of violence? And how can we live in peace? And that's what Rune and Gideon are fighting for. They're trying to find a way to build a world where they're all equal. And they treat each other as equal, like human beings. I love the storytelling, and I love how it builds up to that. Because, you know, in the beginning you're thinking, how can these two people possibly live together happily ever after? Like, what is going to happen to them, you know? And then you see the natural development of this aspect of the novel, and I'm like, oh wow, that was really well done, you know? Like I said, there was a certain plot twist in the book that was entirely predictable. Saw it coming a mile away the moment they introduced it. I'm like, oh, I know where we're going with this. I know 100% where we're going with this. It was a really well done conclusion. Absolutely love it. I think I love it a little bit more than Crimson Moth. That one was like cat and mouse, but this one I liked it a little bit more. After that, I read Make Me a Monster by Kaylin Bayron. First of all, we all know I'm a huge fan of Kaylin Bayron. Huge fan. I still think my favorite is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. Phenomenal book. This one, I was hooked just for the dedication, because you know what it was? 2 quotes. One from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the second, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. And those are 2 of my favorite pieces of literature. I read, my son's middle name is Raven in Latin. So every year on his birthday, I read him the Raven. It's tradition. I read the Raven to him. And he loves ravens. He loves all the creepy things that I love. But I love The Raven. And Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, I read that book 3 times. Once in high school for fun, and then twice in college for my Literature of the Gothic class. I wrote a paper on it. So I was already hooked from the dedication. It follows Mika. She works in a funeral home with her parents. She notices she's being followed around, right? You kind of get Halloween, Michael Myers vibes from that, and I thought that was really good. Like, who are these sinister people who are following her around? There's a really good atmosphere being built in the narrative, and it's really, really well done, especially after her boyfriend dies in a freak accident. He slips, falls, hits his head. So young, right? Turns out Mika and her family are descendant of the doctor that inspired Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But it's not an experiment that brings people from the dead. They have the power within themselves to bring back the dead. It's so absolutely well done. I loved that building of tension. I love how Mika, she's never been afraid of death, but now she has to really come to terms with death. You know, she does the makeup. She works with her family, preparing bodies for wakes and funerals. She's not shy around death, but she's never had to personally deal with death herself, you know? So now she has to rectify, like, oh, I'm actually not okay with death like I thought I was. So the novel really deals with grieving and death and letting go, but it does so in a way that is very, very much spooky, but thoughtful and, you know, compelling to read. And then there are lots of allusions to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. I mean, there are a bunch of ravens in the novel, which is really, really interesting because ravens do play a role in a lot of different mythologies regarding death and the afterlife. So, lots of allusions to Edgar Allan Poe's Raven, and just Poe's work in general. Like, it has that gothic atmosphere, it has that gothic tone to it, as well as Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You could, in a way, call this book a Frankenstein retelling, but it is much more than that. You definitely see where Frankenstein plays a role in inspiring this piece of work, but it really is much more than that. It really is a more modern Prometheus. Without just being a simple retelling. It has that gothic, like I said, gothic tone, gothic atmosphere. It has a lot of moving aspects to it and how it deals with death and grieving and how to move forward with that. It's honestly perfect for the spooky season. So add this to your October TBR for sure. Alright, let's see what's next up here. Oh, Moth Dark. I was lucky enough to be on the street team for this book, Moth Dark by Kika Hatsupoltu. I really am terrible at pronouncing her last name, especially if I don't have it written down in front of me, which I do not at this point. Moth Dark. This is an urban fantasy. Very much takes place in Manhattan, in New York, and you follow Shashia. I really suck at pronouncing names today. I'm sorry. It follows our main character, Shashia. Saschia. No, S-A-S-H. S-A-H. Why do I feel like there's just C? Never mind. Ignore my spelling, because clearly I can't remember how it was spelled. And then it follows our main character, Sasha. And she is obsessed with the dark. So the dark is portals. They're like little bubbles, pockets of darkness that allow in mythical creatures that they, you know, Moth Dark, Dark Moth, you know, Dark Basilisk. Pretty much any of those fantastical creatures that we know of mythology, you put the word dark in there, but there's also like dark lions, dark tigers, you know, a bunch of different creatures. And also foliage, like it's another world. It is another world entering the dark, right? And she's obsessed with it. She's fascinated with it. And she's in a program to study it. She's very relatable because she suffers from this feeling of inadequacy. She just thinks she's not good enough, you know? And you see that as the novel progresses, because her novel is linear. But every so often, a chapter will begin with a memory. And I think that that's very compelling, because that's kind of how our mind works. You know, we will think of things that remind us of past instances, you know? So it is, in fact, really, really well done. It's fluid. It's kind of effortless in its fluidity. And she meets Nagua, the, we're going to say, Fae Princept. So the Fae in this world, and I'm calling them Fae only because that's how she describes them, but they're like dark Fae from like D&D. Think Drizzt, you know. That is how I envision them. You know, dark Fae, Drow, Drizzt. But what's really interesting is they could go to sleep a male one day and wake up and decide to be a woman. There is a lot of gender fluidity in this novel that I love how that's explored, honestly. And she meets Nagua at different points in their life. So they are not, their story arc is not linear. The first time she meets them, they already know who Sasha is and they're trying to kill her. Second time, they have no idea who she is. It's the first time they're meeting together. Third time, it's after they've tried to kill her and need their help because they have been poisoned. And then there's a fourth time and you're like, wow. It's kind of mind-blowing because there's this concept of Yemen. So between the Fae world and the human world, there is time displacement. Thousands of years can pass in the blink of an eye. And the Itgalin, their dark moth god, has chosen Sasha as kind of like their best friend. They're like, we're going to protect you. We just want you to, you know, form an alliance and help each other. It's honestly such a good novel. I loved it. I loved it. The numerous plot twists, like, whoa, at the end. I think the characterization is really well done. I think it is really relatable. Just the constant self-doubt. Sometimes that tends to annoy me. It does tend to annoy me. But because it is backed by her reflections of past instances, it makes it more human. And instead of it coming off as self-deprecating, it is more relatable. You know, because you have that backstory that then builds up this emotional impact of why she feels inadequate in this specific scene, you know? So it is actually really well done. All right. After that, I read Heavenly Tyrant. Okay, I need book 3. I need a book 3 because after that ending, what the fuck? First of all, the toxic dynamic between Zetian and Zheng, they are a couple that shouldn't work, and yet I love them together, even though they're so bad for each other. They are so awful, but also not. They are toxic for one another. They bring out the best, but also they bring out the worst in each other. So it's kind of like, God, I'm so torn. Like, I kind of love you guys together, but you are also two awful people when you're together, so I also don't like you together. You're very toxic. Their dynamic was amazing. I loved the story. I loved how the story developed and changed, and when we got to that climax, first of all, didn't see that coming. Not at all. The multiple plot twists in this book had me just gasping. Every time I audiobooked it, I would be listening to it, I'd be like, what the fuck? I'd be like, oh! I was like, no, did that just happen? And when I got to the end, I was like, jaw hanging open. I was like, oh my God, I need a book 3, and I need book 3 now, because after that ending, that cliffhanger, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Not okay. Alright, so I just need book 3, okay? After that, I read I, Medusa by Ayana Gray. If this book is not on your TBR, you need to add it to your TBR right now. This book is so different from previous Medusa stories that I've read before because it goes like way back. What Gray does here is she gives Medusa an identity. And I do not think that that's something that I've seen before in literature. She gives her a wonderful identity, and she gives her a backstory, and she gives her history. I love her dynamic with her 2 sisters. I think that's so well done. Her dynamic with Poseidon, first of all, you really do get to see how predatory Poseidon is, how manipulative and toxic when he finally does take advantage of her. And then that scene where they're like, well, did you say no? She said no, but she didn't say the word no. And women, you know. Coercion is not consent. And when your mouth is covered, how can you possibly say anything? How can you protest? And they're like, well, did you fight? She was drunk. He took advantage of her being drunk. Oh, well, you were drunk, so you were asking for it. Absolutely not. But that is the instance that happens to Medusa here. That is exactly what happens to her when she is, in a way, put on trial. They are victim blaming her. And it's awful and heartbreaking to see, but also so very real. But that's also what makes it so heartbreaking, you know? Being drunk is never an excuse. No one's ever asking for it based on how they dress or how they decide to, you know, enjoy themselves on a night out. That's all bullshit. It really, truly is. It's just, rape is rape. And this book is so powerful in how it touches that subject, addresses that subject, addresses victim blaming, and also addresses the way society views women, you know? So I really love how Medusa is given a story and she's given an identity, and how her story is just kind of brought to life, and how she heals by the end of it. You know, she heals. Her story, of course, ends the way all her stories do, with her head being lopped off, but you don't actually get to see that because it's not important to this story. It's not important to her story. You know what happens at the end, but again, it's not important. What's important is her journey, her identity, and how she heals, you know, and how she finds peace. And I think, and how she challenges not just her rapist, but also Athena. And so it really was such a well done story, and I absolutely loved it. In fact, it's given me more inspiration to write my own Medusa story that I've been percolating right here. So, honestly, you like Greek mythology, like Medusa, read this book. Silver Elite is what I read next. I mean, it was okay. It's not really memorable. It's so funny. I read Shield of Sparrows before this book, and like a week after reading Silver Elite, I was like, what was her name again? My coworker was just like, honestly, I don't remember either. And we had to go, I'm like, oh, right, Ren is her name. This book has been said, she's like an adult Katniss. No, I'm not seeing it. And I just, you know, we went through all my Hunger Games. She's not an adult, you know, Katniss. I don't see Katniss in her at all. I didn't get Hunger Games vibes. Yeah, it's a dystopian. You've got some dystopian vibes going on here. If anything, my coworker, Jeff, he was correct in saying it's more divergent vibes. It is very much more divergent vibes. I mean, like, it's okay. It was an okay book. It didn't blow my mind. It wasn't spectacular. I gave it 3 stars because I'm just like, not memorable. But if you're looking for like a palate cleanser or just something to kind of breeze through, this would be the book for you. It's not the most outlandish or thrilling book, but it's a book. After that, I read My Fair Monster. So once again, huge thank you to Page Street Book for sending me an arc of this book. I absolutely loved it. First of all, I love that every single chapter title is the name of a horror movie. That is so great. The novel follows Corey. She's a pageant queen, but she's also a horror fan. She has seen so many. There's this show. It's kind of like Svengoolie or Elvira in the book. She discovers they're going to have a costume contest. Winner gets to be on their show in character. And she's like, this is it. This is my chance to show that I am capable of being on screen. Because what does she want to be? She wants to be a horror movie star. She wants to be a final girl. She wants to be in slashers and horror movies. Like, that's what she wants in life. And I'm like, I love you so much. So what does she do? Because she knows how to do pageant makeup, special effects, creating characters. She's like, I don't really know exactly what to do. So what does she do? She finds Everett, who is a special effects artist. And she's like, hey, you want to redo me? And I can be, My Fair Monster. And she makes that joke, instead of My Fair Lady, My Fair Monster. And he's like, no. And she's like, oh. But then eventually he's like, yeah, okay. Obviously, budding romance builds between them. It's very cute. It's very heartwarming because he wants to make, horror special effects. Like, that's what he does. He's really good at makeup and prosthetics and all that fun stuff. Like, he loves that stuff. That's his passion, and that's what really draws them together. These two characters both love horror movies. And they're so cute and sweet together. But what's really, really good about the book is how it deals with undiagnosed ADHD. So, first of all, Corey's aunt is kind of a bitch. She's her pageant coach, and she just makes Corey feel absolutely worthless. Because, Corey, again, they don't know she has undiagnosed ADHD, but so she'll forget things or she'll run late to things, and she'll just kind of be deflated, and her aunt just doesn't lift her up. I do love the support her mother and her cousin give her. Her mother literally straight up says, she's asking for an ass kicking. Do not listen to your aunt. She literally says that because her aunt kind of puts so much on her that is not her fault, I love the way the novel addresses those family dynamics and also shows the healing process of addressing those family dynamics and really Corey standing up for herself. That was such a great thing. She's like, no, you don't think I'm capable enough to coach me, so I am not going to be there at the opening of your new store. I don't care. And I'm like, good for you, girl. Good for you. It's so well done, honestly. I mean, sorry, eyes itchy, allergies. It's so well done how it addresses things like undiagnosed ADHD. So it really was just a fun novel to read, and I highly recommend it to everyone. It's cute, it's sweet, and I'm just like in love with the horror aspect of it too. It's like cute and kitschy. After that, I read Girls Who Play Dead by Joelle Wellington. The Blonde Eyes First is still my favorite book. This one was okay, but I didn't love it as much, and I wish I had. It's a dual POV. It follows, 2 characters. Did I write? You've got, Kayla and Mickey. So, their brother and sister, they're slightly estranged because Mickey did have a nervous mental breakdown at the beginning of his freshman year. He's in therapy. He does take meds. And he went to go live with his mom, right? He just couldn't handle, he has severe anxiety. I relate to that 100%. So when Kayla's friend Aaron is murdered, he comes back to town, but he sees that something's not right with his sister, Kayla. And there isn't. I was not always a fan of the characterization in this book. I didn't always like Kayla. I understood where she was coming from, where she was grieving, but I didn't always like her. And I think that's my problem with this book. Whereas all the characters in The Blonde Eyes First, I kind of loved all the characters. And this one, Kyla, I get it, she's grieving, but she was such a huge bitch half the time. I just didn't really like her a lot of the time. Mickey, I liked him more, and I kind of wish we had more POVs from him. He is a queer character with an alternative rock style, and I'm just like, yeah, loving it. I do like the mystery with Cook Cosmetics. There's something wrong with this company. And you want to know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Catwoman, the one with Halle Berry, the cosmetics. I'm like, ooh, something evil's going on here. I wonder how bad it's going to be. Is there going to be a supernatural twist to it? What's going to go on? But those were the vibes that I got from Cook Cosmetics. And yes, something is wrong with Cook Cosmetics. And yes, it was responsible for Aaron's death, but not in a way that I saw coming. So that part did catch me off guard, and I was like, whoa! Didn't see that coming a mile away. But I love the way it develops, and I love the way that the mystery kept me at the edge of my seat. Even if I didn't always like the characterization, I was still intrigued by the mystery. After that, I finished up Starling House, which was my book club pick for Read with Sims Workshop, my digital book club. I like the book. It's like a cozy horror fantasy, if that makes any sense. There are illustrations in it. I like the tone and the atmosphere. I will say Opal, again, was not always likable, but I don't think she's supposed to be likable. However, she does go on a really good redemption arc. She is a really good character. I loved all the side characters. Her brother Jasper, Beth, Charlotte, August, and of course I love August. He's like this brooding, tortured artist. I'm like, yeah, totally my vibes, dude. I think the storytelling is really beautiful. There's footnotes in it, and it gives it this authenticity. Weirdly enough, it makes it more authentic. It makes it feel more realistic. And then there are, stories within the story. And I think that that's really well done as well. It's like this is why I say it's cozy. Like, this is a book that I would read curled up on the sofa on a rainy day. I mean, it just has such a luring, enticing tone and atmosphere. It's not fast-paced. It's steady. Like, I wouldn't call it slow either, but it goes at a pretty steady pace. You want to know the mystery of Starling House. And I think the conclusion in the book is a really good conclusion as well. I don't know. The best way I can describe it is a cozy horror fantasy. Because with the monsters of the Underland, that's a little bit of horror. The house is kind of haunted, also kind of horror. Monsters and Underland have this fantastical aspect to it. It really is just a well done narrative. After that, I read Project Hail Mary. First of all, I thought this book was going to be so dry. This was the book club pick for the Barnes & Noble Fort Lauderdale Book Club, Fantasy Fanatics Book Club. This book was not on my TBR, and I was like, I was kind of not looking forward to it. But then I started reading it, and it made me smile. It's so good. And I audiobooked this one. So, this is what I will say. I highly, highly recommend the audiobook for this book because their narration, the tone, it's funny. The different inflections that are used for the characterization, especially Rocky, I think were so well done and thought out and executed in such a brilliant way. It was honestly such a fun novel to read. And it's also really accessible. It deals with a lot of science, but it's written in a way that you don't have to be a science nerd in order to understand it. You can just kind of go with it. And it explains itself, but not in an info dumping kind of way. I also love the memories. So with Grace, He wakes up. He has no memory of anything. But as the story progresses, his memories are coming back, and they come back at important moments for the novel. I think it is really well done. It's fluid, it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming, it's bittersweet. Rocky is great. I love Rocky so much. And you know what? Reading the book, listening to this audiobook has made me excited for the movie, whereas before I was just like, meh. You know, again, not on my TBR, not on my watch. But now I'm just like, no, I want to see this movie, and I want to see Rocky brought to life. And I cannot wait to see how they bring this book to life, because it was just so... It was fun. You know, it's sci-fi, it's science fiction, but it's relatable, and it's funny to read. And absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Alright, after that, Ever the Dragon Republic. This is another book that had me jaw-dropping. Jaw-dropping! You guys have no idea. I mean, yes, you do know. First of all, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you know, you know. That backstabbing moment, I was like, what? And that's near the end. I was so mad. I was like, Christine! That's my other coworker who has already read the book. She's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, first of all, I loved the character who did the backstabbing, which breaks my heart, because that character, I couldn't stand him in book 1. But he took such a 180 from like the ending of book 1 to this one. I was just like, I love him. He's great. And then he backstabbed her, literally. And I was like, you bastard. How could you? How dare you? Kate is amazing. We love Kate. I think I like this book more than book 1 because you've gotten all of that world building out of the way. It's all done. It's all out of the way, right? So it's just well done, honestly. It's well done. It's well executed. I think that the pacing is really, really fast. I love how we're going on character. There's a lot of character development. And I think that that's what stands apart, because the pacing, it's like nonstop throughout the entire novel, but also she's growing as a character. And I think that that's really important. And that's another reason why I liked it so much, because she's growing as a character, and now we're really getting into the groove of the story, and it's really just like taking off. After that, I read The Moth. I don't know how I feel about this book. This is another book where you have Emma, and she's just... It was really hard to connect to her as a character, because she's just... There is a disconnect. And I understand the disconnect, because she is disconnected from everyone ever since the disappearance of her sister in this bog that's behind her house. It's called the Moss, right? Everyone called it the Moss. And it's like this bog, marsh, whatever you want to call it. And she's a little... There is a disconnect. There is a disconnect. I do like how the story is written like, oh, before mom, after mom, before Eve, after Eve. You know, that's before her mom disappears, after her mom disappears, before Eve disappears, after her mom disappears. I really do think the story... I think it had good pacing. However, I wanted more haunting to go on. I wanted her to delve a little bit more into the history of this house. You know, into Simon Lark, the Sedgeman, his daughter Sybil. I wanted a little bit more history and a little bit more haunting. I think that's what was lacking for me. Because it's such a short book. It's only like 270 pages. It's like nothing. I read it in 5 days, only reading, you know, like 30, 40 pages a day. I think it needed more. It needed something more to the story, especially to make up for that disconnect with the character. Like, you understand why she's disconnected. She was just too stoic that she lacked a personality. And that's why I really couldn't connect to her, because I wanted her to have more of a personality. Like, show me some more emotion. Show me different emotion. And you really don't get that until she enters the moss looking for her sister. And challenges the Sedgeman. And I'm like, great. Finally, we're here. This is great. I just wanted more of that attitude and personality to come through earlier in the book, because for most of the book I was more intrigued with the mystery that I didn't really get a whole lot of, and the haunting, which again I didn't get a whole lot of. It felt, I don't know, I wanted more. I definitely wanted more. Right. After that, I read Night of the Dragons to my son. What can I say that I haven't already said before? It's Dragonlance. It's amazing. It has beautiful artwork in there, especially that scene of Varana when she's in Pax Darkus and she's fighting. She's like, yeah, holds up her sword, and you finally get to see that character growth with her. And I'm like, yay, Varana. They would be doomed without Tasselhoff and Raceland. They just need to start being nice to Raceland. I don't care. That is the hill I will die on. They would be doomed without him. Really love Dragonlance Chronicles. Clearly, I love Chronicles. I love Dragonlance. Clearly. But yeah, I love that my son loves it too. I love that we're reading it every night, and it was a lot of fun, and he really enjoyed it. And he always loves to look at the map in the beginning. And of course, last but not least, I finished up Sailor Moon with Eternal Volume 10. Yes, I did cry when I finished it. I did. Just like I cried at the end of Cosmos Part 2. I didn't crawl up into a fetal position to cry. I'm just like, it's over again. There's no more Sailor Moon. When am I going to rewatch it again? I don't know. I just don't know. But yeah, you know, Sailor Moon is great, and I loved, again, reading the manga after watching Sailor Moon Cosmos and Eternal gives me a more appreciation for those animes, because you can see how closely they stayed to the original material. So for me, it gave me a deeper emotional impact. I mean, oh my god, every time I see the evil Sailor Scouts fight her, just seeing the way it was animated was brilliant, and just to see how it came alive on paper first, it was truly heartbreaking moments, especially with Mamo-chan, and you're like, really? Evil again? Poor Mamo. Can't catch a break. But it's such a moving story. I love the conclusion to it. It is a little heartbreaking and it is a little bittersweet, especially because you kind of know where her story is going to end. Like, she's going to outlive everyone as Sailor Cosmos. And that's just a little heartbreaking that Bright Usagi is going to have to eventually go alone on this journey at the end of things. But even Tuxedo Mask, he knows this as well. He says something at the end of it, and you can like see the love he has just drawn in there, and it's just, I love Sailor Moon. Absolutely love it. But in any case, those are the 14 books I read this month. Let me know what you read in the comments. Do you disagree, agree with any of my opinions? Let's talk. In any case, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book reading friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.